Liberal cowardice. To be blunt, people who want authority to exist because they themselves are immature cowards. They want an all-powerful entity to impose their will on others. This takes different forms and different varieties of political advocacy, but the basic motivation is always the same. The liberal, for example, resents reality. He does not want a world in which suffering and injustice are possible. But instead of doing what he can as a human being, he wants government to do it for him. He wants some magical entity to make sure that everyone, including himself, is fed, housed, and taken care of, no matter how lazy or irresponsible they are. Instead of trusting human beings to take care of each other, he wants a superhuman authority to guarantee housing, food, healthcare, and all sorts of other things for everyone. He wants it so badly he refuses to accept the obvious truth that no such guarantee is ever possible, and that if mere mortals do not take care of themselves and each other, nothing else will take care of them. The liberal views the world as a continuation of the classroom where there is always an authority in charge and in control who will make sure that the good kids are rewarded and protected from the bad kids. Each child is told what to do and taken care of, and all that is asked of him is that he does as he is told. He is expected to bear no responsibility at all for his own well-being, except through his obedience to authority. He does not provide his own food or his own shelter or his own protection or anything else. He simply has faith that authorities, teachers and parents, will provide for him. He is raised in a setting which bears no resemblance to reality and is taught to look to authority for all his needs. And the liberal continues to do exactly that long after he leaves school. He speaks of each person having a right to housing, food, healthcare, and other things, as if some giant tooth fairy is obligated to make such things magically appear for everyone. The nature of reality, though it stares him directly in the face every day, is too disturbing for him to acknowledge because it is so different from the world he grew up in, where authority was responsible for everything. The government programs supported by liberals are a manifestation of their own delusional terror of reality and refusal to see the world as it is. They fear uncertainty so much that they try to hallucinate into existence a superhuman entity, government, that can somehow overcome all the uncertainties of reality and create an always safe, always predictable world. And when the mythological savior not only fails to fix the world, but makes everything far worse, as happened with the collectivist regimes of the Soviet Union, Cuba, and China, and many others, the liberal still refuses to let go of his blind faith in the omniscient, omnipotent God called government. A simple analogy makes all liberal political theory collapse. If 100 people were shipwrecked on an island, what would it even mean to say that everyone has a right to food, or that everyone has a right to health care, or a right to a job, or the right to a living wage? If, for example, someone has the right to housing, and housing comes only from the knowledge, skills, and efforts of other people, it means that one person has the right to force another person to build him a house. This is exactly what happens in a larger context when liberals advocate that some people be forcibly robbed via taxation in order to provide benefits for others. The notion that people, by virtue of their mere existence, are entitled to all sorts of things, things which come into being only as the result of human knowledge and effort, is delusional. The logical result of this supposedly loving and compassionate viewpoint is violence and slavery. Because if one's need entitles them to something, that means that it must be forcibly taken from anyone else who has it or can produce it, if he will not supply it willingly. The fact that such short-sighted animalistic attitude, collectivism, is portrayed as a progressive, compassionate philosophy does not change the fact that it is in reality indistinguishable from the philosophy of rats and cockroaches. Regardless of who produced something, if someone else wants it or claims to need it, he should forcibly take it. The Communist Manifesto expresses this as from each according to his ability to each according to his need. Of course, there is a fundamental difference between suggesting that people who have wealth to spare ought to voluntarily help the less fortunate and advocating that violence should be used to make things fair. Government programs are never about asking people to help each other, if they are always about using threats of aggression to force people to do certain things and behave in certain ways. But the myth of authority allows liberals to advocate widespread constant violence and intimidation while still imagining themselves to be all-knowing, all-powerful mommy to force people to share and play nice, and they ignore the fact that there is no such thing and that imagining such a thing only adds violence, suffering, and misery to society.